It's time for the next one. Now, this is the one that I'm sure will have some great comments. The FGCOC Communications Twitter made their post. This is a collective of community volunteers has written the fighting game community code of conduct. It also got patched already, by the way. There's already been patch notes. So, this came out and like a lot of people were freaking out about it. A lot of people were talking about it. And I read through it and my initial reaction was, I don't understand the point of this. Mostly because when I read it, it was like, don't murder people. Don't go to people's houses and throw bricks through their windows. And I read it and I was like, I mean, these seem like pretty straightforward rules. I'm not really sure I understand the exact point of this, but it seems cool. And then I saw everybody freaking out about it. They were like, oh my gosh, this thing is so bad. It's so awful. Look at these tyrannical rules and it's like super awful and all this kind of stuff. So then I reread it and I thought about it some more because I was like, is there something I've missed? It seems pretty clear what this is for and who this is for, right? And that group is local tournaments, smaller TOs that run regional or major events, and people who run large online spaces. Anything like that, right? It's a malleable set of rules to attach to your event and then adjust as you see fit, which is really useful because if you look at something like Combo Breaker or Evo or some large event, they already kind of have a rule set. And if they don't have a rule set, they have a set of ideas that they're going to stick to, right? They're like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. But the communication and the talk about this started up, if you guys remember, when there was like a wave of bans that happened last year. One tournament would ban somebody, and then if some tournament bans someone, it's like, well, is this tournament going to ban this person? Is this tournament going to ban this person? Is that tournament going to ban this person? What are you going to do about it? Are you following the same ruling that this TO does or that TO? It like created such a weird situation where everybody was like, I don't know what's happening. What is the rules? Like, what are the rules? Do we need to do this? Like, I don't know what to do here. So on the topic of this as well, I was sent a very early version of this and they asked me to look at it. And my feedback was so useful. My reply was, I have no idea how to make this at all. I wish you luck. I've never in my life even thought, what should a community code of conduct look like? It is so far out of my wheelhouse. I was like, you know what? I don't know how to help you guys, but I hope it works. I don't imagine that large events look at this and they're like, wow, that's groundbreaking. To me, it mostly seems like something to apply to smaller events and tournaments. And like, if you go to your local, does your local have a set of rules? What happens if someone cheats at your local? I think Wednesday Night Fights and NLBC like maybe have a set of rules. Maybe. Even then, I'm not sure that they do. But like, locals are obviously the ground flooring for our entire community. It's such an important part about how our events are built and how they turn from smaller events to regional events to major events to large tournament organizers that run internationally, large events that draw people in from all over the world. So, in that sense, a lot of them, they have to figure all this out on the fly, right? So this just gives you like a blueprint. You look at this and you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's kind of like a character guide for a tournament rule set, right? It's literally you just going like, what moves are good with this? Oh yeah, you probably shouldn't let people murder people. That's a good one. Oh, it turns out his standing heavy hygiene is pretty good. You should have some hygiene. Okay, I got to remember that. Also, the special move where you're not allowed to go over there and just kick people's doors in outside of events. That's pretty good. I should remember that. You got to use the fast door open move. Okay, good. A couple of other things about this. One, I'm not envious of the people who have to do this job. If for any reason, right, this code of conduct, anybody on it, anybody who does any of the rulings, anybody who creates any of the rules, anybody does anything, they're going to get so much flack and people are going to be coming after them and people are going to be hounding them for everything, right? No matter what. Whatever they rule on, right? Especially the first few times, if it's not something that's unanimously like, yeah, that just makes sense, people are going to be furious at them. They're going to be like, oh my God, what's going on here? You guys can't ban my favorite person from this because of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And if you don't believe me, just know there are still Chris Brown fans in the world, right? Just think about that for a second. And there are still R. Kelly fans. Exactly. So just imagine when their favorite hit buttons good player turns out they did some horrible act and you're just like, well, I love that guy. You're getting a bunch of people in your mentions like that. I'm not surprised, David. I mean, also, you're the person that everybody associates with the list, I assume, right? So 3.1.15. That's the best one on there. The one that's like, if you have bad hygiene, it's over. I got to remember that one because I'm going to be using that one for sure. We got a real 3.1.15 over here if you catch my drift or if you've caught a whiff. The only other thing that I saw that people brought up was, does this help anything? Why is this necessary? I think it's useful and necessary at the very least, because how many tournaments do you guys know of that have a clear, concise code of conduct and have a clear, concise set of rules? And even these rules are not like, have you guys even looked at these? Pestering or stalking any other person or otherwise not respecting any other person's reasonable desire to be left alone. Using or threatening to use a deadly or dangerous weapon except in reasonable defensive situations. I mean, like, don't pull a gun on somebody and threaten them with a gun at a tournament. That seems like a pretty straight, even a shank, whatever it is, right? You got a fight stick with a shank attached to it. Like, sure, yeah, you probably don't do that. The other thing is I saw, yeah, people have brought that up in the chat. Like, who are the people who are enforcing this? Like, I don't know who these people are. Like, who's enforcing the enforcers? That's like the question as well. Like, yeah, I mean, if it turns out that there's a situation where something comes up with this list or somebody on it needs to be enforced, like, and they're not being, you know, handled or taken care of in whatever way, then, you know, sure. But like the group of people, from my understanding of this, and like I know David posted a thread about this, the group of people who handle the rules and the group of people who handle what happens afterwards if people break them or whatever are separate groups of people. And also, these guidelines are malleable rules that you can apply to your tournament or event or space in whatever way you want. You can choose to engage with them or not engage with them, or even choose to use these something similar to these rules for your tournament. You look at these and you're like, these are pretty good. I'm going to use these as a baseline for like what my tournament or event should do. Maybe you're in a different country or a different place in the world, and you're in like an online space, so some of them don't apply to you. Yeah, you can choose whether you want to sign on to it or not. Like, what's the concern about a governing council? I mean, it's essentially people made a community version of a set of rules you can apply to your event. They didn't show up and they're like, guess what? We're the law in town now. Like, they just created a set of rules that they're like, if you want to use these, you can. Notice that you don't see a bunch of large TOs like signed on to this set of rules right now, right? And if they do, then they still have their own rules that'll apply to their tournament, right? But these rules aren't even like set into stone. First of all, most of them are illegal if you break them, right? Like, you assault someone, well, it's not just the FGC, you know, code of conduct is going to get you. It's like somebody's going to come arrest you. But more importantly than that, it's not even about making rules and like taking people out and banning them and stuff. It's like they just make a list of rules and they're like, if you want to follow them, you can. Do I think TOs were asked to provide input? Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of TOs on Twitter say that they've given feedback or they think it's like a cool start or they like it or whatever, right? There's like people who have said good things and like, yeah, I think it's in the right direction and stuff like that. When I saw it, I thought the same thing. I was like, you know, I'm not really sure exactly who this is for, but it seems cool. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it makes sense. Mostly my concern was like, I feel bad for the people involved because I'm like, this seems like so much work for something that I'm not sure will be very useful for people. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know, this probably will be useful for people, which is good. I don't find this a super concerning thing. More than anything, I feel like it's a difficult job. And I think that there is so much room for them to have one thing happen and then it ruin a good effort that they're trying to do. You know what I mean? This seems fine. Nothing egregious has happened with this or seems like it will happen with this so far. Listen, I've yet to see a rule stating that a dog can't play in a fighting game tournament. Dude, there's the dog that can throw a fireball. You just need to make that dog pick Anji and then put him on the side where Fujin goes that way. That dog's got a chance. A dog playing Cliff might make top 8. A dog playing Cliff might win the tournament. Colluding with anti-air Bud to split the pot every major in crypto. They're trading in Dogecoin for the payout of tournaments. Well. Who could have seen such a conspiracy coming?